The sound of engines woke me at 6 in the morning. Not just one car but several, their headlights cutting through my bedroom window like searchlights. I stumbled out of bed, pulled on my robe and peered through the curtains. A blue Mercedes sat parked in the middle of my front lawn. Right on the grass I'd spent 3 months growing from seed. Behind it, a red Honda was positioned diagonal across my driveway. 2 more cars were pulling in as I watched, their drivers treating my property like a shopping mall parking lot. What the hell is going on? I muttered, racing downstairs. My name's Michael Carson. I'm 38, a software developer who works from home. 4 years ago, I bought this 5-acre property on Oakwood Drive, right at the entrance to Willow Creek Estates. The house needed work, but the land was perfect, rolling green lawns, mature oak trees, and something the real estate agent called an interesting feature: the private road that serves as the only paved entrance to the entire Willow Creek neighborhood. I yanked open my front door and stepped onto the porch. The cool morning air hit me, but I barely noticed. My attention was fixed on the circus unfolding on my lawn. A woman in a business suit climbed out of the Mercedes, talking on her phone. She glanced at me, gave a little wave like we were old friends, and walked toward the road. More cars kept coming. A silver SUV parked so close to my rose garden that its bumper touched the wooden border I'd installed last summer. "Excuse me," I called out. "This is private property." The business suit woman barely paused. "HOA approved it," she called back, already halfway down the road. "HOA approved it?" Nobody had asked me, and this was my land. I counted 12 cars now, scattered across my lawn like toys abandoned by a giant child. One driver had even positioned their minivan under my apple tree, probably for shade. The grass underneath was already showing tire marks. I walked to my mailbox, dodging around a poorly parked Lexus. A piece of paper was taped to the post. I ripped it off and read: "Notice: due to emergency repairs on Willow Creek Drive, overflow parking has been temporarily relocated. The HOA board has designated this area for resident use. Expected duration: 7 to 10 days. We appreciate your understanding. Willow Creek Estates HOA." My understanding? They'd turned my front yard into a parking lot without even knocking on my door. I crumpled the notice and headed back inside. First things first, coffee. Can't fight a war without caffeine. While the machine gurgled, I called the police. "Unless they're breaking into the cars or causing violence, it's a civil matter," the dispatcher told me. "You'll need to contact your HOA." "I'm not part of their HOA. I live outside their jurisdiction." "Then you'll need to handle it through legal channels, sir." "Legal channels. Great." My lawyer, Janet Mills, answered on the third ring. I'd hired her during my house purchase, and she'd been thorough about explaining every detail of my property rights. "They did what?" she said after I explained. "Turn my yard into a parking lot. There's probably 15 cars out there now. And you never gave permission?" "Never. They just put up a notice and started parking." "Do me a favor. Check your deed. Look for the section about the access road and easements." I kept all my important papers in a fireproof safe. The deed was right on top. I flipped through it while Janet waited. Here it is. "The access road is a private easement. Residents of Willow Creek Estates have the right to use it for," let me find the exact words, "ingress and egress only. Nothing about parking." Perfect. "And you own that road. From the county line to where it meets Willow Creek Drive. About half a mile. That's the only way into their neighborhood? Unless they want to hack through the forest or helicopter in." "Yes." Janet made a thoughtful sound. "How many homes in Willow Creek?" "Around 200. So you control access for 200 homes, and they're using your property as a parking lot?" "That's about the size of it. This is going to be interesting. Take pictures of everything. Document the damage. I'll draft a cease and desist letter. But Michael, don't do anything that could be construed as threatening or retaliatory." "Like what?" "Like blocking the road. Let's handle this properly." Too late. The idea was already forming in my mind. After hanging up, I grabbed my camera and went outside. The sun was fully up now, revealing the extent of the invasion. 23 cars. I counted them twice to be sure. Some parked on the grass, others blocking my garden, one actually touching my front porch steps. I photographed everything. The tire tracks in the lawn. The crushed flowers where someone had driven through my garden border. Oil spots already forming on the grass. The noise of car doors slamming as more people arrived to collect their vehicles or drop off new ones. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Carson? This is Patricia Hoffman, president of the Willow Creek HOA." Finally. Ms. Hoffman, you've turned my property into a parking lot. Yes, I apologize for the short notice. We have an emergency situation. What emergency? We're having the clubhouse parking lot resurfaced. It was scheduled for next month, but the contractor had an opening. Your notice said street repairs. Pause. Did it? Must have been a miscommunication. So you lied. That's a strong word, Mr. Carson. We're all neighbors here. No, we're not. I'm not part of your HOA. This is my private property. Well, yes, technically. But we're a community. We help each other out. Did you help me out when you decided to use my yard? It's only temporary. 1 week, maybe less. It's been 3 hours and there's already damage. Dead grass, oil stains, crushed plants. The HOA will compensate you for any damage. The HOA will remove these cars immediately. Her tone changed, becoming harder. Mr. Carson, I understand you're upset, but let's be reasonable. Where else can residents park? That's not my problem. It's just grass. It'll grow back. It's my grass, on my land, that you're trespassing on. I think trespassing is an exaggeration. I think it's a legal definition. You have 2 hours to remove these cars. That's impossible. People are at work. They can't just leave. 2 hours, Ms. Hoffman. I hung up. While waiting, I did some research. The Willow Creek Estates HOA had a website. I found their board members, their bylaws, their meeting minutes. Interesting reading. They discussed parking problems before. The clubhouse lot was too small for their growing community. Someone had suggested building a new lot, but the cost was deemed excessive. Cheaper to use my land, apparently. I also pulled up the easement agreement. I'd signed it when I bought the property, giving Willow Creek residents the right to use the road. But the language was specific. Very specific. For vehicular passage only. No stopping except for emergency. No commercial use. Property owner retains right to revoke access for violation of terms. That last part made me smile. 2 hours passed. The cars remained. If anything, more had arrived. I counted 31 now. Time for phase 2. I called Rick's Towing. Rick Donovan and I had gone to high school together. He'd started his towing business 10 years ago, and I'd helped him set up his computer systems. Mike, long time buddy. What's up? I need some cars towed. About 30 of them. 30? You opening a used car lot? HOA decided to use my yard as a parking lot. Without permission. What? That's not cool. Can you handle it? I'll need to bring in extra trucks. This is gonna cost them. Send all bills to the Willow Creek HOA. When do you need us? Soon as possible. Give me an hour. We'll need at least 6 trucks for that many cars. While waiting for Rick, I had a visitor. A man in khakis and a polo shirt walked up my driveway, carefully stepping around the parked cars. Mr. Carson? I'm Brad Williams, HOA treasurer. Mr. Williams. I heard about your conversation with Patricia. Perhaps we can work something out. Sure. Remove the cars. I mean a compromise. Maybe we could pay a daily rate. I don't rent out my lawn. It's just temporary. So you keep saying. Doesn't make it legal. Look, I understand you're upset. But filing complaints, calling lawyers, it's so adversarial. We're willing to compensate you. How much? He looked relieved that I was finally talking money. Say $50 a day? I almost laughed. $50 for 30 cars destroying my property? 75. Mr. Williams, I paid $300,000 for this property. I pay thousands in taxes. I maintain this road that your entire neighborhood uses. And you want to rent my front yard for $75? What do you want? I want respect for property rights. But since that ship has sailed, I want these cars gone. The sound of diesel engines interrupted us. Rick's convoy had arrived. 6 tow trucks, yellow and chrome gleaming in the morning sun, turned onto my road. Brad's face went pale. You called tow trucks? You had 2 hours. Wait. This is unnecessary. I'll call Patricia. Patricia arrived in record time, her white Escalade screeching to a halt. She jumped out, cell phone pressed to her ear. Stop this immediately, she shouted at me. Stop trespassing on my property, I replied. Rick walked over, clipboard in hand. Where do we start, Mike? Anywhere you like. They're all illegally parked. This is outrageous. Patricia shrieked. You can't do this. Watch me. The towing began. Rick's crew worked efficiently, hooking up cars and pulling them out. The first to go was the blue Mercedes that had started it all. Patricia was frantically making calls. Emergency HOA meeting. All residents to Carson property immediately. People started arriving. Some ran from the direction of Willow Creek, others drove down and parked on the road, the actual road, not my lawn. Soon a crowd had gathered. My car. A woman in yoga clothes pointed at a white SUV being loaded. That's my car. Should have parked it legally, I said. More shouts. More anger. Someone started recording with their phone. Another person threatened to call their lawyer. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, watching the show. This is theft, someone yelled. No, parking on private property without permission is trespassing. We had HOA approval. The HOA doesn't own my land. One by one the cars disappeared. Rick's crew was thorough. Within an hour, my lawn was empty except for tire tracks and dead grass patches. Patricia approached me again, her face red with fury. You've made a terrible mistake. Those tow fees will cost thousands. Should have thought of that before. The HOA doesn't have that kind of money. Then residents will have to pay to get their cars back. This is vindictive. This is property law. She turned to the crowd. Don't worry, everyone. We'll sort this out. The HOA will cover the fees. Brad Williams looked sick. Patricia, we can't. We'll discuss it later, she snapped. The crowd gradually dispersed, grumbling and shooting me dirty looks. Patricia lingered, trying one more time. What do you want? She asked. I wanted to be left alone. That ship has sailed. So what now? Now we discuss the road. Her eyes narrowed. What about it? I own it. The only paved access to your neighborhood. You can't? She stopped, the implications hitting her. Can't what? Exercise my property rights? Like the ones you ignored? That road has been used for decades. Under an easement agreement. Which has terms. Which you violated. You'd cut off access for 200 families? I'd protect my property. Something you clearly don't respect. She stormed off without another word. That evening my phone rang constantly. Residents, board members, even the mayor's office. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I met with Janet at a local restaurant. You actually towed 30 cars? She was trying not to laugh. 31 actually. The HOA is in panic mode. They've called 3 emergency meetings today. Good. Maybe they'll learn about property rights. About the road. She pulled out a legal pad. You're within your rights to revoke access for violations. But completely cutting off their only route could face legal challenges. I don't want to cut it off. I want to renegotiate. What are your terms? Monthly payment for road maintenance. Written approval needed for any HOA activity near my property. Damage deposit. And a public acknowledgement that the road is private. That's reasonable. What about the amount? $5,000 monthly. Janet whistled. That's $60,000 a year. They were willing to pay that much to build a new parking lot. This saves them money. I'll draft the proposal. 2 days passed. The HOA called 6 more emergency meetings. The story hit local news. Property rights battle, 1 man versus 200 homes. Social media exploded with opinions mostly supporting me. On the 3rd day, contractors arrived at my property. By evening, an electronic gate stood across the road where it entered my land. Solid steel, keycard access with an intercom system. The next morning was Saturday. I made coffee and sat on my porch watching cars approach the gate, stop and turn around. My phone buzzed endlessly. Some residents tried walking through the adjacent woods. They quickly discovered why the road was the only practical access. The forest was thick with undergrowth and streams. By noon, a news crew had arrived. Channel 7 wanted a statement. I declined but watched from my window as they interviewed frustrated residents at the gate. Sunday brought more drama. Someone had organized a protest. About 50 people gathered at the gate with signs, "Open OUR road," and "End the siege." Patricia called. The residents are ready to riot. They're standing peacefully with signs. Hardly a riot. Some people can't get to work tomorrow. There's a county road 12 miles north. Longer route, but it works. You're being cruel. I was being generous when I allowed free access. You abused that generosity. What will it take to open the gate? A new agreement. With my terms. Which are? Your lawyer has the proposal. Monday morning, I opened the gate for emergency vehicles only. Fire trucks, ambulances, and police could pass. Everyone else had to use the northern route. The inconvenience was immediate. What had been a 5-minute drive became a 20-minute detour. School buses had to be rerouted. Delivery trucks needed new directions. The HOA's phones rang nonstop with complaints. That afternoon, the full HOA board arrived at my house. Patricia, Brad, and 3 others I didn't recognize, along with their lawyer, Charles Weston. "Mr. Carson," Charles began, "we're prepared to negotiate." We sat at my dining room table. I'd laid out coffee and cookies. Civilized warfare. "Your terms are steep," Charles said, reviewing my proposal. "Building a new road would cost millions. The monthly fee covers maintenance, snow removal, and improvements. The damage deposit seems excessive. They caused $10,000 in damage in 3 hours. And this public acknowledgement ensures this never happens again." Patricia hadn't said a word. She stared at the contract like it might bite her. "If we agree," Charles finally said, "you'll restore full access?" "Immediately. We need to discuss this with the board. Take your time. But the gate stays locked until we have a deal." They left without the cookies. 2 days later they returned. The agreement was signed, along with a cashier's check for the deposit and first month's payment. "Congratulations," Patricia said bitterly. "You won. I protected my property. There's a difference. The residents will hate you. They'll adjust. And maybe they'll think twice before assuming someone else's property is theirs to use." I handed over the gate access cards, 1 per household, paid for by the HOA. The gate would open automatically for emergency vehicles but required a card for everyone else. Within a week, life returned to normal. Some neighbors still glared when they drove past. Others waved, seeming to respect someone who stood up to the board. A few even stopped to apologize for parking on my lawn. Patricia resigned as HOA president 2 weeks later. Brad Williams took over, promising better community relations and respect for property boundaries. The monthly checks arrived promptly. The road stayed in excellent condition. And nobody ever parked on my lawn again. 3 months later, I hired landscapers to fully restore my yard. The HOA's deposit covered it with money to spare. The new grass grew in thick and green. I even added a small sign at the property line: "Private property, no parking." Sometimes I sat on my porch in the evening, coffee in hand, watching cars pass through the gate. Each beep of a keycard was a small reminder that property rights matter. Each monthly check was compensation for years of free access they'd taken for granted. The gate became something of a local landmark. "Turn left after the gate" became common in directions. New residents were told the story as a cautionary tale about respecting boundaries. A year later, the HOA proposed building their own parking lot on land they actually owned. It passed unanimously. They even invited me to the groundbreaking ceremony. I didn't attend, but I sent a nice card. The road situation worked out well for everyone eventually. The HOA had a reliable maintenance fund. Residents had guaranteed access. And I had the satisfaction of knowing my property rights were respected and compensated. But the best part? On quiet mornings, when the dew still clung to that perfectly restored grass, I'd stand on my porch with coffee and remember the day 31 cars thought they could park wherever they pleased. The day an HOA learned that owning the only road into a neighborhood isn't a weakness, it's leverage. The day property rights won. And every time I looked at that gate I smiled. Because sometimes the little guy doesn't just win. Sometimes he wins big, wins fair, and wins in a way that teaches everyone a lesson they won't forget. $5,000 a month. $60,000 a year. For a road they'd used for free since the neighborhood was built. All because they couldn't resist turning my lawn into a parking lot. Some lessons are expensive. This one cost them a blue Mercedes worth of money every year, forever. And it was worth every penny of the principal it protected.